Happy Friday. Welcome into Payoff Pitch, Action Network's MLB betting podcast, presented by BetMGM, the king of sportsbooks. Brendan Glasheen in the host chair, joined today by Jim Turvey and Tanner McGrath for Friday Best Bets. It is Friday, April 12th. If you have not joined in the programming already for Payoff Pitch, we are here Monday, Tuesday, and Friday during the baseball season. So subscribe to the podcast if baseball tickles your fancy. Tune in wherever you listen to your podcasts. Leave a 5-star rating and review. We also have the video version up each and every Monday, Tuesday, and Friday at the Action Network YouTube page. Any comments, subscriptions are greatly appreciated, but comments you leave on both the audio and video side are appreciated. And once we get into the thick of the year, when there's less stuff going on, April is a low-key busy time on the month, time on the sports calendar. It really is a lot going on, which is great, but I know, the baseball people like having the baseball to themselves, and they feel more important at times. Then again, I'm talking to two guys here that do dabble in other sports, so I think they're just fine with that. Okay, guys, let's dive in. 15-game slate. There was a short slate Thursday, which is typical for baseball, and then some rainouts because that is the time of year we are in the month of April. So I'll go to you first, Jim Turvey. When you look at today's board, 15 games, where do you see value for a best bet?
Yeah, so it's funny. Tanner and I were talking before the program. We kind of just naturally split. I'm gonna be doing a lot of player stuff today. He's gonna be doing a lot of sides and totals. So hopefully we got you covered on all angles. My favorite player prop for today, Will Benson, and I like him in a lot of different manners. I'm gonna do a little mini escalator here. When we do NBA, we talk about over 5.5 rebounds, over 8.5 rebounds, over 12.5. For the baseball side of things, I'm going to do over 1.5 hits plus runs plus RBIs. That's out there at minus 145. Over 1.5 total bases at plus 110. And I'm going to do him to hit a homer at plus 290. So I'm liking a little mini escalator here on Will Benson on Friday. Part of it is the pitching matchup. Chris Flexen's going for the White Sox. He is not good at all. And Benson has really turned into quietly one of the best hitters against righties in baseball. If you sort last year's weighted runs created plus leaderboard against right-handed pitchers with batters with as many plate appearances as he got against righties last year, he was above the three names right after him: Mike Trout, Bryce Harper, Corbin Carroll. Not bad. So he is in pretty good company when it comes to facing right-handed pitching. He's got a good spot in the Cincinnati lineup. And Flexen is a pitcher who not only had the worst home run per 9 ratio of any pitcher with at least 100 innings last year, he's picked up right where he left off this season. He's dead last among all starting pitchers in Stuff Plus. His fastball actually has a negative Stuff Plus rating. That's pretty impressive. That's hard to do. And Benson is really popping this season. He's got a hard hit rate in the top 6% of the league. His barrels and velo are both up. And he's got good lineup protection. Christian Encarnacion Strand, I was looking at him as well. He's due for a little bit of regression. He's sitting right behind him in the lineup. On the Reds as a whole today, but I really like targeting Benson. I think it's a perfect matchup for him with Flexen struggling on the mound and him looking to pounce all over in what should be a pretty solid home run environment today in Chicago as well.
Benson is a high ISO guy too, which I like. He's a little bit boomer bust because he strikes out a lot, but he has power. So if he gets a hold of one, you could cash everything in one at bat.
Exactly.
And Abbott is on the mound for the Reds to counter him. The Reds are minus 175 on the money line as a favorite in Chicago. That staff is pretty putrid, to say the least. So, okay, Jim sees value on a player prop. Tanner, you're going to go to a side, and a first 5 side.
Yep. I love the Phillies tonight. I love the Phillies in the first 5. They are taking on the red hot Pittsburgh Pirates. But I grabbed minus 155 for this last night, but I would say it's good at minus 170 or better. I'd probably limit my exposure above that, maybe a half unit up to minus 180. Either way, Christopher Sanchez is kind of my guy. He's a pitcher that I've always loved. I've always thought he's been really underrated. He made some mechanical adjustments last year, lowered his arm slot a little bit, and what ended up happening was he has one of the league's slowest, steepest changeups, and now it's like one of the league's filthiest offerings. I mean, he forces whiffs and ground balls galore, and that combination is something that I'm always looking for in pitchers. His slider is fine. It's a good, third offering. His sinker is an interesting pitch. I mean, it lagged behind last year, but he managed to limit the usage on it more or less, moderate it. But the stuff plus on that pitch in the early going is a whopping 118 after posting a 75 on it last year. He found an extra 2 ticks of velo. So either way, I think this 3-pitch mix that he has is really working, and I really like him as a third middle rotation guy for the Phillies. The only problem this year is that he's getting BABIP to death. I mean, he has a 380, and therefore his ERA is a full run higher than his expected ERA. And I just don't expect that to stay the same for long, especially against the Pirates lineup that has 3 southpaws toward the top of that order. They are crushing lefties in the early going, but they were really bad against that side last year. And during 2023, they faced off against 315 left-handed changeups and posted a league low 233 expected WOBA. I expect some regression back to that mean against a nasty southpaw changeup pitcher. Meanwhile, I think the Phillies offense will eventually blow up any day now. I mean, it always seems like they start slow. They are again this year. But I think they could have some success against Bailey Falter, who nobody really likes, right? I mean, he has a 5.4 ERA, 6.7 xFIP. He's walked more batters than he's struck out across his first, I think, 11 innings. I'm a little bullish on the Pittsburgh pen, so I'm just going to take the Phillies in the first half here behind my guy, Sanchez.
Is there a price point you play that to? I know Sean Zerillo, who is doing UFC with us today. So Zerillo's got picks in the app, though, still. And that number keeps climbing. So did you have a cap on it for the audience sake?
Yeah, as I mentioned, minus 170 or better is good for a full play. And above that, I'd probably limit my exposure, a half unit play up to probably minus 180. But grab it as soon as you can.
Okay. Price point right now at minus 175. First 5 innings for the Philadelphia Phillies. On to Fade the Public, which Jim Turvey, I'm so sorry. I just saw your message in our Action Slack, and I'm the worst with Slack. I don't get notifications because, we do live shows. I'm going to take folks behind the curtain for a second because this is something that does bug me. I don't like to get the notifications while we're doing shows. Ding, ding, ding. So I shut the notifications off. And then someone messages me something important. Well, then I need to know to help people or get the scoop on a schedule or a recording, whatever. So sorry, you messaged me earlier this morning, but we identified Jim's question was, what's going to be the Fade the Public segment? Well, we figured it out right before we started recording. We're going to talk about the Arizona Diamondbacks. The people love the D-backs. They love the Snakes. 95% of the bets, 98% of the cash on Arizona. To take down the Cardinals. Steven Matz is on the mound for St. Louis, and it's Brandon Pfaadt on the mound for the D-backs. Jim, hope you had some time to assess this public money coming in on Arizona. What say you?
I did indeed. I was glad we went with this game because the public loves the Snakes. I love the Snakes. This was a bet I was eyeing as well. Brandon Pfaadt, we've talked. He's a name. I feel like he's got to go on. The mini Rushmore of payoff pitch. I feel like he's a name that has been loved for a long time in these airwaves. He's got not the best ERA to start the season. It's a little over 5, but under the hood is looking real good. His strikeout minus walk is top 20 in baseball. His xFIP is top 10 in baseball. He's a young pitcher who has the pedigree. We're eyeing him to start with anyways. If the ERA buys us a couple more starts where we can be with him, I don't hate that, to be honest. The Cardinals offense has been very pedestrian all season. They've been worse against right-handed pitching. On the flip side, Steven Matz has a pretty good ERA, actually, but it's almost the opposite. Under the hood is very sketchy. He's got 4.47 xFIP. It's actually almost twice Pfaadt's. If you go by xFIP, Pfaadt looks like one of the best pitchers in baseball. Matz looks like kind of what we expect Steven Matz to be. Now, the market knows this to a degree, but I'm not going to go against the grain here and try to outthink this. I think Pfaadt's the better pitcher. I think the Cardinals are the opposite. I think the Diamondbacks are the better team right now. Arizona's been great against lefties this season. They weren't as great last year, but I do think this is a young team that is improving as we go along. They got the 6th best offense in baseball against lefties at 123 weighted runs created plus. So yeah, I love being on the Snakes side of things. So I'm riding with the public today.
All right, Tanner, how about yourself? Arizona taking on the Cardinals. Is this more about a Pfaadt support or supporting Pfaadt or fading Steven Matz?
It's both. It's also just buying the Diamondbacks against the Cardinals, and I'm riding with the Snakes too, with the public, with Jim. Jim said a lot of what I was going to say, so I'll just add a few notes. Look, Fott, ERA above 5, but his xERA is below 3.3, and his location has been, his command has been near perfect. He's just getting a little unlucky with some batted ball stuff. I think positive aggression should come his way. Matt's, Jim mentioned it. Negative regression should come in droves. I think his stuff metrics are really concerning to me. Down about 8 points in the stuff plus model across his arsenal, and his batted ball profile, looks mediocre at best. And yeah, the Snakes are crushing the ball, man. Top 10 lineup by the regular WAR and WRC plus metrics, drawing a 10% walk rate, which is always nice to see. They rank top 10 in expected slugging, expected WOBA, and the Cardinals very much not hitting right now. Bottom 5 in the league in expected slugging and expected WOBA. They're 35% hard hit rate. That's the 4th worst in Major League Baseball. Both pens are fully rested. I probably give a slight edge to the Cardinals in terms of back end bullpen firepower, but it's close. And I actually give a very considerable defensive advantage to Arizona. The Diamondbacks always field. They always pick up balls. They rank 4th in defensive runs saved so far in the early going. Cardinals, meanwhile, bottom 10 in defensive runs saved and outs above average, which is surprising for a team that has Arenado and Goldschmidt at the corners, but that's that. So yeah, give me the Snakes here across all 9 innings. I'm going to be on them in the first 5 and full game.
All right. Steven Matz is only 32. For some reason, I feel like he's almost 40 now. That's how long we've heard his name.
He's been in the league for a long time. Yeah.
And he's I'm taking it also that you guys think this is a mirage so far, his first 2 starts.
Definitely.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. It's all luck. He's stranded 85% of runners. He hasn't allowed a home run yet. He's only striking out 15% of batters, and he's walking 7%. Runs are going to come soon, and hopefully they'll be here against a Snakes lineup that is ripping the cover off the ball. So,
all right, yeah, just 4 runs scored in his last start, a 3-1 win against Miami, and then his opening day start, his first start was against the Dodgers, a 5-4 loss for the Cardinals. All righty, let's move on. What do we got next? Underdogs for this slate. We were just chatting before we started. You guys were not a fan of the card as far as what's available for underdogs. So, Jim, I'm curious what you may have came up with for today.
Yeah, it's a pretty rough day for underdogs. There's actually, we're going to talk through some bets here at the end. There's a couple of favorites I think Tanner and I both like. There's a lot of those games where, both teams are at minus money. So even with, being a little generous, we can't even get there. The only team that caught my eye, I will say that the Rockies, if Toronto keeps taking money, Tanner and I both think the Rockies could be potentially interesting if the number gets long enough as a fade of Kevin Gausman, who's been pretty sus so far this season. But the one I landed on is, in that borderline cheating area. It's at plus 105. And honestly, this isn't a hammer for me, but it's the one that caught my eye. It's Minnesota at plus 105. Very short road dog. And, we love Tariq Skubal here on Payoff Pitch. And I like him a lot. But, a lot has been made of just how easy the teams he faced last year were. And it started this season too. He's faced the White Sox and the A's. Not exactly the teams that are going to, put the pressure on you that this Twins lineup can do. Now the Twins as a whole are struggling a little bit. That they're under 500. This is still a much better lineup than the White Sox or the A's. So it's going to be a real test, and it comes in opposition to Pablo Lopez, who is just straight up one of the best pitchers in baseball. So I would make this. I think getting plus money on Minnesota is. There's a little bit of an edge there. I'm not going crazy with it, but it was the one that caught my eye in a slate that was, rather light for the underdogs.
Tanner, how about yourself? Underdog that emerges to you?
Yeah, Jim and I obviously think very much alike. I think it's because we're both Vermont natives. All Vermont Payoff Pitch this Friday. Which
Jim, you're from Vermont too? I didn't know that.
Yeah. We're both big.
Is that where you are right now?
No, I now live in New York.
Okay, I think I knew that, but
either way, yeah. Looked across the slate. Weird day for dogs. Marlins, no, never again. Rangers, no. Guardians, no. So I also took a faux dog a slight underdog in the Brew Crew. The Brewers full game. They're minus 105 now. I got them plus 100 last night.
That's cheating, but we'll allow it.
Yeah, well, they're still dogs, whatever. And look, unlike Jim with his Minnesota play, I really like this spot. I really love this spot for the Brewers. I might throw a little bit extra on it at minus 105. Couple reasons. First, Freddie Peralta is my guy, starting pitcher for the Brewers. He's a guy I'm going to be betting all year long. He really built momentum across the second half of last year. And now, through his first 2 starts in 2024, he's got a 3.1 ERA and a 2.3 expected ERA, 35% strikeout rate, 5% walk rate. The stuff plus on his fastball is 135. He's forcing like an 18% swinging strike rate on that pitch. That's insane. And he pairs that with a slider that is forcing a 44% whiff rate and has yet to allow a hit on 50 thrown. They used to call him Fastball Freddie. He's trying to rebrand to Slider Freddie, and he's been using that pitch more and more. And it's really working, man. He is pitching well. And while we all love Baltimore's Tyler Wells, I mean, he's kind of been an Action Network guy. He has a 6.5 expected ERA through 2 starts. His stuff numbers look fine. I'm sure he's not that bad. I'm sure he'll see some positive regression. But I have some concerns after 2 ugly outings against the Angels and Pirates. That's not great. Meanwhile, the Brewers, they have a fresh bullpen after yesterday got rained out for them, I believe. And this is a good bullpen. Like a lot of, they're deep and they have a lot of arms that they can go to. Baltimore played an extra innings game last night in Boston and now come home with some travel, and their pen is a little extended. So I give a pretty significant pitching advantage across all 9 innings to the Brewers here. And I just think the Brewers are really good, man. Like they're now 7th in Fangraphs' most recent power rankings by their power score, ELO, whatever. Christian Yelich is just destroying the baseball. 7 guys in the regular 9-man lineup have an OPS above league average. William Contreras is really hitting the ball well. The Brewers are 6th in hitting F4, 5th in WRC+. Jackson Chourio has been a very impactful 2-way guy in his early career. He's 9th in all of baseball in outs above average. The Brewers are 1st in outs above average and 2nd in defensive runs saved. So a significant defensive advantage for the Brewers here too. The Brewers do everything well, and I think they have advantages in all 3 phases of the game across all 9 innings tonight. Hopefully you can get, a plus money on this, but I think minus 105 is fine. I think minus 110 is fine. I really like the Brewers in this spot, and so I'll be backing them.
I love that cap from Tanner, and I'll just add on. I love those spots where it's like it's a home game, but both teams are traveling in. Especially the extra innings is a great point. It's like it's not even a home game at that point. It is your stadium. You do get to sleep in your bed, but at that point, like it's not like you've been settled in. Like it's very much a travel day into a home game, and that's definitely a softer home field advantage.
Absolutely.
I'm surprised there isn't a system in place for a guy, just using Peralta as an example, more of your front end guys, that you should be able to just travel back home the night before and give your pitcher, like give him the appropriate rest and the whole going through progressions. And I don't know, get them in the night before so they can be ready to go. If anything, the starting pitcher should have that kind of leeway.
Maybe they want to be on the sidelines to support their squad. Are you a bad teammate, Brendan?
No, but he'd be being a good teammate by making sure he's ready to go to deliver. Now, if he sucks the next day, that's a different story. But I'm curious, when does the Peralta jersey make the wall behind you and Sandy comes down?
Pretty soon.
Oh, really?
once he wins Cy Young. No, the Sandy jersey is always going to stay up. This is actually a Christmas present from my friend. It's a signed one. You can see it on YouTube. Sweet. If you're watching our YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube. Signed Sandy.
Oh, in the number, right? Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. Quickly, before we go to your final picks for the day from Tanner and Jim, what do you guys make of this division, right? Because I know you guys mentioned the Pirates are hot. They're 9-4. Brewers are 8-3. Last place, St. Louis. We just discussed fading them. They're 6-7. So that's the most, if I glance quickly, that is the most balanced outside of the American League East, which is no surprise. But yeah, this is the next, in the National League at least, it's a very balanced division. The Cubs are still the favorite at BetMGM. They're 7-5 plus 210. The Pirates are the longest team to come out of the division still at plus 650. I'm curious if there's any value in it. I get it. It's 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks in. Are you considering some of these teams like the Pirates and the Brewers to come out of the division at these price points?
I've actually been staring a little bit at the Cardinals, which is weird because obviously I talked about fading them and how they're bad, but projections like have the Cardinals coming out on top of this division more often than not. Like Pacoda has them 38%, Fangraphs has them
38% to win the division.
Yes. And, Fangraphs has them like 25%. And I think you could get like plus 325. I think I was looking at it. I still think the Cardinals are good. I think the offense can turn it around. I'm a little curious about the defense. I think that they can piece together enough starting pitching because I like their bullpen. I think they have a good top 3 in their bullpen. I think this division is wide open, and I have questions about pretty much every team except for the Brewers. So I was kind of looking at the Cardinals, but I have yet to pull the trigger on that because I'm trying to figure out what I make of them as a whole. But they intrigue me a lot in this completely wide open division.
It is. It's definitely wide open. I before the season, futures wise, looking at it, I think Zerillo was all over the Brewers. That's off to a great start. If you got on that, I don't hate doing what Tanner said and kind of leveraging that early.
Win total was what, in the high 70s?
Yeah,
you could have.
I think it was 77. Yeah, I think so. And they've gotten off to a great start. You could leverage that piece already. Because it's so wide open, and I'm kind of curious. The Brewers and Pirates are the teams that I think are looking the strongest. I mean, they are looking the strongest, but they're also the 2 teams I worry a little bit about in terms of like I could see the Cardinals, if they're even close, and maybe even the Reds going out and getting pieces at the trade deadline, where I could see Milwaukee kind of doing that Tampa Bay Rays thing where it's like, are you selling? Are you buying? Are you doing both? It's confusing. It's not clean. It's not neat. And they could definitely ship off like a Willy Adames or something like that. So because it's so in flux right now, this is a division that I think I'll probably wait on. I've got my preseason stuff, did a taste of the Pirates, got in on some Brewers stuff. Those are both looking good. I don't want to leverage it just yet, but I am keeping an eye out to see if you start to even hear, buzz about whether these teams are buyers or sellers. I think that could make a bigger difference in a division like this, where the potential sellers are currently at the top of the division and the potential buyers are right now at the bottom of the division. That can really flip things. You don't want to overreact to it, especially if the Brewers do that thing, like I said, where they do a little bit of both. It confuses people and they end up just as good. That's something to keep an eye on as well. So I think I'm holding on divisional front right now for the NL Central.
Okay. And of course, the Brewers, I think the overreaction to the market was moving on from Corbin Burns, who is a top end arm, but that's why you got value in the preseason, right? Or the spring training portion of the year, the winter, when the win totals and division prices and all those things came out. DeBundo makes a great point. He said this the other day, and it's so true. I mean, even if you're a seller, like giving up pitching with the state of the clock and young arms and making it through a full 162, that's going to be fascinating to follow once we get closer to the deadline. Just how willing are teams, even if they're out of it, planning for the future, how willing are you to give up pitching?
Well, it's great. It's like depth is absolutely essential these days, and especially on the pitching side. I think that's something that we've been considering in the futures market, but I think it has to be considered even more so. If you have organizational depth when it comes to pitching, that is absolute gold, because guys are just dropping like flies.
Mm-hmm. Okay, very good. So the National League Central, it's fun. Good back and forth. And once these teams start playing each other, I know they play less division games now with the new schedule build, but something to keep in mind as we watch the Brewers and the Pirates duke it out at the top of the division right now. All right, couple more from Jim, one more player prop, a couple of first 5 sides, and then Tanner's got a couple more, and then we'll get out of here. So Jim, you first.
Sure. So one other player prop for you guys. I'm going Jurickson Profar under 1.5 hits plus runs plus RBIs. That's at minus 150 right now. So this guy's been off to a really hot start. He is hitting the ball a little bit harder, in all fairness. But if you look, he's still getting a little bit lucky on all this stuff. But the other side of it, and why I like it even more, and I'll tie this into the Dodgers' first 5. Yamamoto has looked much better since coming back from Seoul. His last 2 starts, He hasn't given up a run in either. He's gone 5 innings, which isn't the deepest, but no runs allowed in either. He's only given up 5 hits over that stretch as well, and he's got 13-2 strikeout to walk ratio in those 2 starts. So circling back to profile really quick, it's also one of the worst run scoring environments of the day. Dodgers pen is fully rested. I think he's going to have a tough day. He's a guy I've been looking to fade at spots here and there just because I think he is outperforming. He's running a little bit hot and look to fade that. Dodgers first 5, just talk through Yamamoto looking excellent. Michael King's the opposite of that. He kind of looks like a ticking time bomb to me. That's not what you want to be against this Dodgers lineup. There's a little bit under the hood there that worries me, and almost thinks he might, part of it could be the transition from a reliever to starter. That's a pretty tricky transition to kind of keep tabs on when we're looking at his statistical profile. But I'm a little bit worried that there's something deeper there with King that might be up. And then just finally, briefly, Reds first 5. Again, we talked through Chris Flexen earlier and why, I called Michael King a ticking time bomb. Chris Flexen's just a bomb. He's just bad. And I am not the highest on Andrew Abbott, opposite him, but the White Sox have been that bad this season that I'm fine laying the -170 on the road. They've been worse against Southpaws. They're just not a good team right now. The Reds are a solid team, and they get a great matchup here in Chris Flexen. So I'm going to be looking at them first 5 in particular. Both bullpens have been bad, so why risk a fluky weird thing in the last couple innings when I can really target this to the first 5 for Cincinnati?
Okay, Tanner McGrath, you got 2 more for us.
I like Jim's look at Dodgers first 5 because I was looking at the Michael King regression train, which should pull into King Station anytime now. And the Dodgers offense, they have an advantage over everybody, right? But my two looks that I have. First, how about the Seattle Mariners first 5 and full game? They're taking on the Cubs at home. Look, Bryce Miller for the Mariners is better than Jordan Wicks for the Cubs. I mean, the gap in pure stuff is monstrous. Through 2 starts, Miller has a 36% whiff rate and a 3.5 expected ERA. And Wicks is kind of a softer tossing lefty who shouldn't keep striking out 30% of batters. Like, that's his rate right now through 2 starts. That's going to come crashing down. And his control isn't even that great for a guy that's supposed to rely on command. I mean, he had a consistent 9% walk rate in the minors, and now he's back to 9% through 2 starts this season. He was like 7.5 last year. It's not like there's not a lot there that I really see that pops off the page for me. The Mariners are not hitting the ball. They can't hit anything, but they are about 30 points under expectation across their like average slugging and WOBA numbers. So I kind of think that comes up. Really scary to fade the Cubs offense right now because their numbers are through the roof, top of the league, across the board. But I don't know if it's sustainable. I don't know if a 355 expected WOBA is actually sustainable across a full season. That is nuts. But I also think they could see some regression in a pitcher's park. And, Jim was talking about low run environments. Seattle is the worst run environment of the day. It's already a pitching park, lowest park factor in the league. The weather is going to suppress run environment big time. Winds coming in towards home plate. It's going to be like 50 degrees out. Ballpark Pal is projecting a -10% run factor. So who knows if the Cubs can hit outside the friendly confines of Wrigley Field. Huge bullpen advantage for Seattle also. The Cubs bullpen has an ERA north of 5, a negative WAR. Everyone knows that this Mariners bullpen is elite. Slow-ish start, kind of, but still a 3.25 ERA, and they were a top 5 unit last year. I see them trending up here. So I'm going to take Seattle in both halves behind Miller and the bullpen in what should be a lower scoring win, I hope. I'm happy to lay up to -140-ish for both. I would look at the under, but I think that 8 is too low. I think that number has dropped down. Second pick, let's go with a fun one. The Oakland Athletics in the first 5 innings as a favorite. Oof, this is gross, Tanner.
And that number just moved, as you said it, at BetMGM. -130 on the money line.
-130.
The Oakland Athletics.
I would take -130. Probably take -140 even. Look, I recently wrote a big piece about actually the Boston Red Sox and their top-down administrative effort to basically stop throwing fastballs. Stop throwing them. Throw more off-speed and breaking stuff because guess what? Off-speed and breaking stuff doesn't get hit as hard while inducing more whiffs. What a novel thought. I think we might see
guys are getting hurt now, which is that's the problem, right?
Yeah,
anyway,
But still, it's been effective, and I think you might see more and more teams look towards this strategy. Another team that's doing that is the A's. They were 4th in fastball usage last year. They're down to 26th. And as a result, the Oakland Athletics are among the league's best pitching staffs. They're 11th in pitching F-WAR. They lead the league in barrel rate, hard hit rate, and average exit velocity allowed. JP Sears just one hit the Rangers yesterday across 6 1/3. Paul Blackburn gets the start today. His sinker usage, so fastball, is down like considerably over the past few years. It used to be he used to throw it half the time. Now he throws it maybe 5% of the time, maybe 10%. And he's now a changeup first guy, which is a good offering, a 35% whiff rate, an 80-mile-an-hour average exit velocity allowed. And all of a sudden, he's like good. He hasn't allowed a single run through 13 innings. His xERA is still well below 3. The stuff metrics aren't great, but the Stuff Plus model doesn't really know how to accurately quantify and, figure out changeup heavy pitchers. So that's fine. Location Plus model loves him, 107, because he's only walked one batter through those 13 innings. He's not striking out many guys, but he's on pace to post a career best batted ball profile, which is currently one of the best in the league. His ground ball rate is over 50%, and that's good in a pitcher's park that is Oakland. Meanwhile, I'm happy to fade Washington's Jake Irvin. He takes the mound on the other side. ERA and expected ERA over 5. A nice curveball, but his other offerings are questionable at best. The Nationals have a pretty big offensive advantage here against an A's team that cannot hit the broadside of a barn. But the A's have such a monster starting and pitching advantage. I have to take them at minus 135 in the first half. I would take full game too, but the A's stretched out their bullpen a bit while shutting out the Rangers yesterday. And more things can happen with the bats and the offense in the later innings. So I'm good with backing Blackburn in the first 5. Go A's.
All right. You're going to put yourself through that tonight, huh? The A's and the Nationals?
I did it yesterday. I'll do it again.
A's are off to a good start for a win total over. As gross as that win total over was, they're looking decent. I think they're 5-8 right now.
If they keep pitching this way, they'll cruise over that.
They will.
They're pitching well.
What was the win total number? 57?
55, I think.
55.
I think it was 55 as stray book, but like 57 overall, mostly.
And they're 5-8. Better record than the Astros through the first 2 weeks.
Yep.
Holy crap. By the way, I think it's a good look on Milwaukee too, because I think Baltimore feasted on the Red Sox this week at Fenway because of their defense that Tom Warner, one of the team owners, he said that the Red Sox would be vastly improved because of their coaching of defense, and that just has not played out. I think it's 12 errors in 12 games now, something like that. But
it's awful. But
I'm actually
they are still pitching well.
Yeah, I get it, but like guys like Chris Martin, who was excellent out of the pen, they're changing his pitch mix, and they were hammering him last night on TV about using the sinker too much, and teams are now just sitting on the off-speed stuff. But my point is that's something to keep in mind. If teams like the Red Sox, just using them as an example, if you can get them into a series where you've got a above average offense or a team that looks better on paper on offense, if they're just better. And it's easy to say because the Red Sox started out west and they played Oakland and Los Angeles, the Angels. Just how you go into a series and they might be undervalued because they pitch so well against teams that are better offenses that can sit back on and know what you're going to throw. But yeah, for a team like the A's, sure. If you want to get to 56 wins for an over, I mean, expectations aren't very high there. Tanner McGrath, Jim Turvey, great stuff from these guys. You can find them in the Action Network app. Our other baseball contributors are also in there as well. Our podcast returns on Monday morning, Payoff Pitch, Action Network's MLB betting podcast presented by BetMGM. Thank you for your subscriptions, your 5-star ratings and reviews. You all have a fantastic weekend. Brendan Glasheen signing off. Thanks for tuning in. Payoff Pitch, Action Network's MLB betting podcast presented by BetMGM. Talk to you all on Monday.